What makes an inspired woman? We are brilliant, funny, compassionate, generous, fearless, supportive, bold, outstanding leaders, and super influential. That's what makes us inspired women. Come join us. Welcome to Inspired Women Amazing Lives podcast. And oh boy, do I have a treat for you today. I am loving my guest today. Her name is Miss Deborah Ann Davis. Welcome, Deborah.
Well, thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
And Deborah is the founder of the awesome
Sale alert at Banana Republic Factory. Take up to 75% off everything, plus an extra 40% off. Save on comfy faves like cozy sweaters, soft hoodies, and more. Find your nearest store or shop online only at Banana Republic Factory. The Friends and Family events begun at Gap Factory and gapfactory.com. Get 50% off everything right now. Plus, shop new doorbusters, including our Gap logo crew neck sweatshirt from $20. Find it all at Gap Factory or gapfactory.com through November 12th.
Tribe. Deborah says your relationship with your tween girl is the most important female bond in your life, in her life. Why waste time with trial and error? Deborah is an award-winning author, parenting skills coach, and educator, and she has drilled down 3 decades of accumulated experience with tween and teenagers into specific strategies that you can start using today. Deborah is armed with a master's in education in supervision and a BS in education. She is a personal trainer and with a 10th grade sense of humor. You gotta love this. Deborah knows what moms are facing because she's been there herself. Great to have you. I love that. Yes, it's great to talk to someone who's been there. So before we get started, I have so many questions I want to ask. But before we get started, Deborah, if you can just go ahead and share with us your personal story of what brought you to this place.
Well, I went to college, as you know, most people who are in education do, and I went not knowing what I wanted to do, but absolutely positively sure that I did not want to be a teacher. And by the end of college, it was so clear that I should be a teacher that that's where I went. And I taught high school and middle school for 27 years, and most of it was wonderful. And a lot of it was eye-opening, and I taught in a wide variety of settings. My first job was actually in your neighborhood down in Atlanta at a school called Cedar Grove.
Yeah.
And then I came back up to Hartford, and I taught in Hartford for 15 years, some middle school and mostly high school, about 10 years in the high school. And then I've been in rural areas like Colchester, Connecticut and Coventry, Connecticut, which are farming communities. And I've been in a very expensive community called New Canaan, which is on what they call the Gold Coast in Connecticut near New York.
Oh, wow.
So I've been in a wide variety of settings, a wide variety of ethnicities and wide variety of ages. And all the time I've been with all these kids, what I've noticed and known is that a kid is a kid is a kid. And they all have the exact same things. They all have the exact same desires. When the first day of school is starting, all those kids, no matter who they are, they hope that this year will be better than last year. They hope that they will have friends and that they won't feel isolated. They want respect and they want to be accepted. And what I learned was that those are the exact same things that their parents wanted. So when I would talk to parents, it would be because there'd be some problem, academic. And they would come in and they'd already be upset with their kids. And so they'd be like this, banging heads. So I had to come up with a bunch of tools where I could help them talk to each other, because if I couldn't get them to talk to each other or listen to each other, then helping them with the academics wasn't going to do anything anyway. So that's what became my passion and my superpower. And, you'd go to the following year and you'd start a new year and with a new set of parents, and the other teachers would say, oh, watch out for this parent's problem, that parent's a problem. I never had any of those issues with any of my parents ever. So, which is a really good record. But the thing is that I was so intuitive about it until I became a mother. Well, I'm a high school and a middle school person. So when I had this little, bundle of joy, I was scared to death. I didn't know what to do. And thank goodness my husband was there, because he comes from a really large family and he knew about babies and kids and all that business. And I was like, oh, and how long do you think it's going to take for her to learn to talk? I can hardly wait till she's in middle school, because then I'll know what I'm doing. And I basically spent all of her elementary years worrying about screwing up her life. But once she hit middle school, I was like, I'm in my zone. I know what I'm doing now. But here's the thing, and this is, you're asking about my passion. This is my issue, is that I spent all those elementary years worrying about messing up her life. And I know from all the mothers I've talked to over the years that that's like a common thread. We're all worried that we're screwing up our kids' lives. And the thing is, if you are paying attention and you're diligent and you're loving and you're trying, the mistakes gloss over.
Yeah.
Those things get repaired because you have your underlying foundation in your relationship. So now what I want is to be able to connect with the mothers. So now, and tell them, you're actually doing a fine job. And they don't have to wait until your kid is produced as an adult to say, wow, I really did a good job. You can understand it now. You are doing a good job. Why can I say that unequivocally? Because first of all, the people who are watching your podcast are here because they're trying to make things better. They're trying to learn. They're trying to educate themselves. They're trying to find a way. So those are the people that are going to be raising good kids, because the kids know that their parents are trying. Mm-hmm. And yes, are they going to bang heads? Of course. Is there going to be misunderstandings? Yes. Are there going to be mistakes? Yes. But it's okay.
Nice. Very nice, Deborah. Yeah. Oh, wow. And when you're a first-time parent, you are going through the first of every stage of your child's life.
Yeah.
So
you're growing yourself.
Yeah. It's a lot of learning, isn't it? For both of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember saying when my daughter was one, when she turned one, I thought, I've never been the parent of a 1-year-old before. And then when she turned 2, I was going, I've never been the parent of a 2-year-old before.
Oh, Deborah, it's so funny that I didn't think that I was, I have 3 children. I have a girl and 2 boys. And I did not think I was going to last through their teenage years. I was like, I literally remember lying in bed crying and saying, God, you gave me these children, but you didn't give me the instruction manual. I was just like, it was like,
here's the instruction manual.
Yes, I was just like so overwhelmed with teenagers.
I had 1 child and I was overwhelmed. It just so happened that 2 of my sister-in-laws were pregnant around the same time I was, and we had our babies 3 months apart. And I was the last one, and I was going, oh my gosh, they're handling everything, and I have no idea. I mean, I know the head goes up and the feet go down, but I have no idea what I'm supposed to be doing with this baby. And I felt like I was the only one who didn't get it, right? Yeah. That's what we do to ourselves.
Yeah.
Everybody gets it except me.
Yes. And parenting is such a special thing. So yeah, I really get why this is your passion. I mean, you took all of the training that you had from from your middle and high school years. And even Deborah, just speaking to that, I've always had a heart. This is something that I'm going to do someday, soon, hopefully, is mentor middle school girls. Because I feel like I remember being in middle school and I didn't fit in anywhere. And I remember just that being just the toughest years of my life. And I want to be able to mentor middle school girls through that. And so just being able to teach in middle and high school, where those are some of the toughest years for children, just speaking to that, you must really have a passion for it. Because now I've heard stories of teachers in middle and high school, and I've heard teachers say, I'd rather teach in elementary school because it's so difficult in middle and high school.
I would never, ever, ever teach elementary school. I mean, I give 3 reasons. 1, they hold on to your leg. 2, they cry. And 3, they don't blow their own noses, right? In the high school, they will blow their nose if you hand them the tissue box, okay?
Yes.
And they hardly ever cry, although they have, and they never hold on to your leg. So I'm way better in the high school than I am in the elementary school. I find elementary school totally scary. Totally scary. The high school, no problem. Inner city, no problem. I don't care, but don't put me in elementary school.
Yeah, because when you're in middle school, especially, you're going through so many. You're just, like I said, you're trying to fit in. You're trying to find your place. You're going through emotional things. And middle school is that, to me, I call it an awkward place.
Yes. Everything is changing for middle schoolers. And I would suggest that many of the insecurities that middle schoolers have are the same ones that we carry into our adulthood.
Yes.
We sit there in the middle school going, everybody is popular except me. Everybody wants to be together and they're not including me, But the reality is, as an outsider looking in, as the adult watching my little middle school herd, they were all doing that. The ones who were in sports, the ones who were cheerleaders, the ones who were really good on computers, all of them thought everybody else was more popular and everybody else had it together and everybody else was not interested in them. It's just a focus that they have when they're young like that. When they're in high school, they've learned how to control that a little bit. Mm-hmm. But the thing is, I'm going to get science geeky on you here, but
that's fine.
The human brain evolves, grows from the back to the front. So the front, it was developed last, and that's your frontal lobe, your areas of reasoning and logic, which is the cosmic joke that the reason and logic come last.
Yeah.
And the average person doesn't finish doing that till they're about 26 or 27, which is obviously post-college. And so when you have your middle school kids, they don't have, developmentally, they don't have the same ability to understand the world around them the way older people do. So one of the things in my book is pictures of people's expressions, because they had done some testing on this many years ago. And adults look at these expressions and they can name them. They know what they are. But if you show them to middle school kids, they're like, that one's mad, that one's not. They'll have a 50% chance of getting the expressions wrong.
Oh, wow.
So now you put 20 middle schoolers in the classroom, you get 20 people who can't interpret expressions correctly.
Yeah.
And when a kid turns around to get something out of their pocket and looks up, and then the other kids see their eyes, they're going, what did that mean? You know, and it creates all this drama and insecurity that has nothing to do with anything. You know, the kids frowning because they're playing back some conversation with their mom, and the person in front of them thinks it's being directed towards them. So
that's
the perfect storm.
Yeah, really good, Deborah. I love that. I didn't even think about that. You know, I can remember my middle school years where I was best friends with the most popular girl in school and still did not feel popular.
Mm-hmm.
And a part of me didn't even really want to be popular. But
I went through that too in school. Absolutely.
Yeah, I didn't really want to be popular, but I was friends with the most popular girl in school, and I still was looking to find my place. I was like, you know, I love her. This is my best friend. We're still best friends today. I said, but she's who she is. I'm who I am, and where do I fit in? I was still trying to find my place. So that's funny. Yeah. Interesting.
Well, here's the thing. We're looking for our place in that spot in time. Like, I'll find my place and boom, I'll be done. But the reality is it's a journey, and we are always on the journey. We're on the journey right now.
Yes.
Right? And where we are right at this minute will be different in 5 years, and it'll be different in 10 years, which is the same for the kids. So what you need to do is find what makes you comfortable in this moment in time. And for moms of tweens, you help them with how to be comfortable in this moment in time. And you say, you're on a path where you invent yourself and you create the person that you want to be. And don't think about, I mean, you can think about, but you don't have to spend your time concentrating on where am I going to be next week?
Right.
Whose house will I be invited over? What sleepover will I go or not go to? You know, you can focus on that, but you can also focus on where will I be in the 9th grade? Where will I be in the 11th grade? And when I'm a grown-up and I'm all sassy and everything, will any of this matter? So those are the conversations you can have with your younger children to make them articulate things. And if I could just add one more thing, if you don't have a relationship where you can broach those subjects with your daughter, it's really easy to bring it up by finding a little article someplace and showing it to her and saying, look at this thing I just read. How do you think your best friend would react to this?
Yeah.
So instead of having it focused on your child, you have it focused on something where you can both talk about somebody else.
That's a great tip there. Thank you so much. I've got so many good questions. Okay, so Deborah, we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. And when we come back, we're going to really dig into some of the finer points of parenting, and Deborah's going to help us with that because these are the most difficult years. So we'll be right back. Are you a podcaster with lots of episodes and content, but have not been putting it to good use? Don't you know that repurposing your content gives you more visibility? And no, it doesn't have to be time consuming. I've got you. Hey, Kimberly Wiggins here with Inspired Women Amazing Lives. Listen, you have what it takes to do this, but it is just time to let more people hear your message. Repurposing your content can surely get you there. Using my repurposing system for your podcast episodes helps you to show up everywhere and be heard in a much greater way so that your message can add value to the lives of others. Isn't that what you really want? Check out From Podcasting to Profit right now at inspiredwomenamazinglives.com. Let's shift things for your life and business so you can repurpose your amazing content that impacts your audience. Use the code PROFIT for $200 off From Podcasting to Profit. We are back. Now, Deborah, I know you've been a teacher, you've worked with a lot of different students. Tell me about the differences between a son and a daughter, maybe in their tween years, if you could help us with that. What are the, what makes a daughter so different?
First of all, I have to, full disclosure here, I don't have a son. Okay? So my expertise in this area is from teaching boys. The thing that most people miss about boys is they go through the entire litany of emotions that girls do. They do it differently. They feel insecure. They worry about popularity. Their feelings get hurt. They have a different standard they're held to in terms of being macho and the way they're supposed to show up in terms of girls and the way they're supposed to be in terms of the hero icons and things like that. Mm-hmm. So they've got this whole societal norm that isn't real that they are trying to achieve. At the same time, they're hormonally changing, just like the girls are. They are feeling awkward and insecure, and mostly those feelings make them feel like something's wrong with them. So when you get boys who excel in sports, it's like a relief because they're doing something that their little mental societal norm is saying is good for boys. And so the boys are thinking, I don't have to worry now. I'm where I'm supposed to be. But wow. I know it's I find it very difficult to work with, to help. I find it difficult to make parents understand that their boys are vulnerable, because parents want their boys to be strong and steadfast. But when you talk to a boy about being vulnerable, and not about being vulnerable, but about the things that make him feel vulnerable, mm-hmm. then you help him be strong and steadfast. But if you just say, that's the bar, strong and steadfast is the bar, get there, then you end up raising insecure boys. And insecure boys are bullies, insecure boys are sneaky, insecure boys lie. And now they've categorized boys like that. I would say, oh, that's true about girls.
Wow. That's really insightful. And when I think about my own boys, as you were saying that, because I was a divorced mom with 3 kids, and my boys, I had to raise my own boys. You're right. I set a bar.
We all do, because we are taught by society, just like everybody else is.
Yeah, I set a bar. I kept telling my oldest, which was my middle child, my oldest boy, stop acting like a child and act like a man.
Well, listen, I found this note just like last week. I found this note I had written to myself when my daughter was 7. 7 was a note to myself to remember to stop treating her like a 9th grader. Right? That's what I teach, right?
Yes.
So we do what we know. And when we are aware that what we know isn't applicable to the situation, then we switch it up. But there should be no guilt or self-blame or self-recrimination for you for that story that you just told, because you are doing what you were taught to do. Yes.
Yeah, you're right.
And these conversations are for the moms who are coming up so they can say, oh, there's an alternative.
Right. And Deborah, I have to admit here, my daughter is my eldest child, and she was absolutely the best daughter anyone could ever ask for. She had—
Good job, Mom. Good job.
I don't feel like it was me. That's funny. I don't want to take ownership for it.
Take ownership.
Oh my gosh. She was a child that was just into her studies, into her books, her entire time through high school. I didn't have any problems with her with boys or wanting to to hang out or anything. She was the easiest child. She was such a blessing. And I don't even take credit for it, Deborah.
Was any of that similar to your personality?
It is. She's
okay.
similar.
So here's the thing. When I work with moms and their kids, I have them take little personality quizzes. In my book, I have the state of Georgia learning styles inventory there because I figured might as well double it up there.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is that moms who bang heads with their kids have a different personality type than that child. And in general, when you have the same personality type as the child, it's much more smooth. I did this retreat for moms and teenage daughters, and I had them do these personality quizzes 2 times. So the first time they did it for themselves, and the second time they did it pretending that they were each other. So the daughters pretended they were the moms, and the moms pretended they were the daughters. So across the board, the mothers got the daughters' personalities right. But the daughters see everything through a young lens. And so every single one of them assigned the mothers their own personality type. So the ones where the mothers and daughters had the same personality type, of course, they were right. But everybody, all the kids think the mothers have the same personality as they do. And that's where trust starts to erode. And that's why it's so easy to fix. Because I'm just going to use the learning inventory categories, which is auditory, visual, and kinesthetic. Mm-hmm. So if you're an auditory mom, like you hear and do things verbally, and that was the way you learn, then you're going to say to your kid who's on the couch watching TV, when you're done with that show, I want you to take out the garbage. And the kid will say, okay, right? But if your kid's auditory, the kid hears it, processes it, makes it part of what they're doing. But if your kid is visual, that goes right out the window. They'll say yes, but, right? So for a visual kid, you write a note on a sticky note, put it on the table in front of them, and then when they're done with the TV, they'll see the note and then process it. So you take that visual kid who doesn't have the note, and the mother comes in an hour later and says, why didn't you do what I asked? And the kid feels blindsided, like, you know, I'm a good kid. I'm trying to do what I should be doing, and now you're yelling at me, and I forgot. I'm a bat, you know. So the thing is, if you take these personality quizzes or this learning style inventory, you can see how you're different from your child, and then you can go online and say, how do you bridge that gap? Because there's tons of strategies. In the book, I say, if you've got a visual learner, and he has, because I was talking about school, and he's got a kinesthetic teacher, because like I was a kinesthetic teacher because I was a science teacher, so I was all, let's do hands-on. That makes some kids uncomfortable. Yeah. And in my mind, I was thinking, wow, this will be fun for everybody.
Right.
So you have to know how to pick and choose what you're doing in order to make everybody comfortable and have enough variety so they're pushed a little bit out of their comfort zone.
Right.
A couple of times a week so that they can get stronger in the other areas. So anyway, I'm digressing here. When you have a different personality type than your child, you parent in a way that makes sense to you.
Right.
And your child is expecting you to have reactions and sentiments that are similar to what the child would have. Mm-hmm. So when you have a contrary reaction to them, they feel blindsided. They feel shocked. And when your child blows up, that's a eruption of, I don't know how to cope. I don't know what to do. I'm scared. I don't know how to bridge a gap between me and mommy. And they'll stomp off, they'll slam a door, they'll yell, they'll say, I hate you. All those are flags that you should be grateful for, because they let you know your child is having trouble. What happens is hear me saying we, mm-hmm. We end up taking it personally when they yell and they blow up, and especially when we're not expecting it, because then we just react and we go, you know, my feelings would get hurt when my daughter would get upset with me, because we don't have the same personality type. And I didn't understand that during her early years, which it didn't matter so much because we were cuddling,
Right.
right? By the time she hit high school, I understood that we had different personality types. And so when I needed to talk to her about things that I thought were going to be contrary to what she wanted to do, I had to learn how to handle those conversations. So,
Wow. You've just given us so much. Oh my gosh, audience, I hope you're hearing this. Deborah has given us so much that you can use really. It doesn't matter whether you have a boy or a girl.
absolutely.
Yeah, I love this. And when you were talking, I could see my daughter is going through this with my 12-year-old grandson. And so I
And the
can't,
personality quizzes.
yes, I can't wait to share that with her because yes, Deborah, I can already tell you their personality is so different. But you're right. Me and my daughter had the same personality. So it really, yeah, it makes sense. Makes sense.
In hindsight, it always does.
Yeah. Now, Deborah, I'm going to ask you a tough question.
Yes.
Because we've all been tweens at some point. Wouldn't you say that all this behavior that we have with our tweens, isn't it just normal? It's just normal behavior.
Every child is normal. It's their normal. You know, all the stuff we're going through, we're trying to reach new normal right now in our lives. Well, that's how they live. You know, every week they're trying to reach a new normal, you know, and the flare-ups, the needing to be behind a door and recharge, the exuberance, the highs and lows, all of that is normal because, first of all, their bodies are changing and so they're getting shots and jolts of different kinds of hormones all the time. And second of all, they're around other people, aka the other teens, our tweens, who are also going through all those jolts and shots of hormones. And they're not necessarily happening in sync. They're like, so they have all these kids who are bouncing off the walls around them, and you know, they're trying to cope, and they're getting blindsided left and right by everybody, and they can't predict what's going to happen next. Yeah. They can't tell, will they be all right? And that's what makes it so unsettling. By the time they get to high school, they have mellowed out a little bit. Their hormone levels are about to even out. They're not quite there yet. And it doesn't actually happen for girls until they're like 20 or 22. And for guys, it's closer to 18. So, but they're getting to that path. But when they're tweens, there's just so much that's unexpected in the world. Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So it's good to know that what they're going through is, you know, one of the things that my daughter says all the time. It's so funny. It's like, I don't know what's wrong with you. Now I can tell her nothing. Yep, that's right. He's normal. But here's the other thing. The way the human brain works, you know, the front is developing last with logic and reasoning. Yes. If you explain this stuff to the kids, it helps them with their logic and reasoning. If you explain that this is the way things go, then they feel normal. And if you say to them, when you go zigzagging in that direction, here's a way to correct that. Then you give them a tool. And when they go hopping in this direction, you say, here's a way to correct that. And you give them another tool. They will feel more empowered. They'll feel more secure, and they'll feel safer that they won't make, you know, huge mistakes in public. Yes. So. Yes. And Deborah, I found that out by default. You know, just as Nana, you know, he's got a little brother that's 5 years old that's driving him crazy. And, you know, I just tell him, especially when they visit me and they stay with me for a day or two, I will tell him when he starts to bug you and just, you can't stand it anymore, you can leave his environment. Just leave his environment. That's all. Just leave him there. You go to some other part of the house
do something else. But before he would just yell, stop. It would just be constant, like, oh my gosh, I don't want to hear stop again. But, so you're
You know
right.
what else- you know what you could do? What you could do with that is after your daughter takes a personality test with him, and they switch out and they try to guess what each other are. When he comes to see you with the younger one, do the personality test with him with the little one. The little one can't do the personality.
Right.
He said, pretend you're him, and then figure out what his personality is, and then we're going to go look up how to keep his personality type from irritating your personality type.
That's a good idea. That's a really good idea. Now, Deborah, I'm jumping the gun here a little bit, but because we're going to talk about the book in a minute, but does your book cover all of this, whether it's for a boy or a girl?
My book is directed towards girls, so it says your daughter all the way through it, but this is pretty universal stuff. And I'd even go so far as to say all the techniques for holding conversations, difficult conversations, they're also good for marriages.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's kind of universal. The thing is it isn't about putting yourself in the other person's shoes. It's recognizing what shoes they're wearing.
Right. I
Right?
love that.
You
Yeah.
don't have to put yourself in their shoes. They're wearing their shoes. You're wearing your shoes. What you need to do is figure out how you can walk together in those shoes.
Yes. Okay. I love that. Okay. I love that. The book can even help you. It's about conversation, huh?
A lot of it is. That's what a lot of the strategies and techniques are. I mean, I talk about, there's a huge component in there about taking care of yourself first, and about being a role model by taking care of yourself. And there's a huge component in there. And I talk about the inappropriateness of guilt. I talk about breaking the supermom myth and breaking the plenty of time myth. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff in there about the adults, because you got to take care of you before you could take care of your kids.
Absolutely. That's right. Absolutely. Now, Deborah, you've shared so much already, but are there some specific things that parents can put in place early in their relationship? Say when their kids are in elementary school, that would help develop a better relationship as a tween.
Well, I would say that all the way through, starting when they're first becoming verbal, conversation is the key. If you can talk to them, then they will expect the conversation. My daughter used to say to me, because I catch her in a lie occasionally, because when children lie, it's because they want to save face with you. They don't want to see your disappointed look in them. And they're trying to preserve their relationship with you. That's what lying is about for children.
Really?
And she would lie about stupid things, like I didn't want to have any food in her bedroom during the summer because of bugs, right?
Right.
And I'd go in there and find half-eaten apple. And I would say to her prior to that, did you haven't been eating in your room, have you? She'd say no. And so I'd go in later, do cleaning, and I'd find the apple, and I'd say to her, why are you lying? I don't understand why you lie about something so insignificant. And she said something really interesting to me when she was probably about 4th or 5th grade.
Mm-hmm.
She said, I don't lie to you about the important things, Mom. I only lie to you about the unimportant things. Which I didn't understand that at the time. I had no idea what to do with that piece of information.
Right.
But the reality is, when there was something important, she was straightforward about it, because she needed me to parent her during that crisis. So even if she had done something wrong, but she was worried about something, those things always came out. The things where she didn't need me parenting her, like the rotted apple in the bedroom, those were the things that she kept hidden from me. So I found that very unusual.
Yeah, you know what? As you're saying that, I think about my grandson, and I think he has a similar thought pattern. Because I can tell there's just certain things he's not going to lie about, because he's got the strange sense of justice at this age. And it's kind of,
Yeah.
it's a little, it's odd to me, but he's got this strange sense of justice. So I could see that. I could see that. Interesting. Ah, such interesting things. I can't,
And you know that his sense of justice matches his personality type, whatever that is.
I can't wait to do that test with him.
Yeah, they're cool. There's a bunch of them, you know. There's the one in my book. There's the one by Dr. Gary Smalley called the Otter, Lion, Golden Retriever, and Beaver, which is the first one that I ever did. My husband and I were at a party, and they had this personality test, and they were passing it around, and that was my first clue, because I'm the kind of person that I love praise. And I used to be embarrassed by that, but now that I understand that that's part of my personality, I embrace it. I love praise. My husband, he doesn't have a personality that needs praise.
Right.
So at all. And I never believed him for like the first 10 years of our marriage. When he said he didn't care about praise, I was like, yeah, you're just hiding that. But I took this test. It laid him out exactly verbatim, everything he'd been telling me. So we went home, we did it with our daughter. I mean, it was so interesting. It was good for him too, because he's not a person who does praise, but he saw in this personality test that it matters to me. So now he's like, oh yeah, that was good.
Yeah,
he's making an effort to praise, you know, and we laugh about it because it's, like he says, out of his wheelhouse, but he still does what he needs to do to support me, and I do what I need to do to support him. Well, that's how we support our kids, when we learn how they are. And the other thing is, just real quick here, teachers teach in a way that makes sense to them. So if you've got a teacher who has a different learning style than your child, then your child will have more difficulty in that class. It's not to say they will have difficulty, but that could be part of the issue, because you probably did really well in the classes with the teachers that had similar personality types, because they taught in a way that made sense to them, which would make sense to you. So in the book, it says, if you have this personality type and the teacher's this personality type, here are some things you can go tell the teacher that they can do to help support your kid. Nice. So you've got it for each of them.
In your book, I can't wait to get that book. That is going to help my daughter so much. And me and my daughter, because, you know, I spent a lot of time with my grandkids, and it's just going to really help us a lot. Thank you for that. I really love that. Oh, wow.
And when boys have a teacher as a different teaching style, they feel stupid. And this is a way to get rid of that. You can say, no, this is the way it is. And this is how you fix that. It has nothing to do with you being stupid. It has to do with them being different.
Wow. That was really just insightful by itself. Thank you so much for that. Wow. Okay. I've done personality tests before. I'm going to try the one with the, you said Gary Smalley, right?
Yes.
I'm going to try that one with my grandkids because it refers to animals. And they would relate to it better. So I'm going to try that one. Very well.
It's better for adults because it's a lot of vocabulary.
Oh, okay.
12-year-old may be able to handle it, but it's a lot of vocabulary.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to try that one myself, and I'll see.
Yes, you'll like it. You'll like it.
All right. So now we've talked quite a bit about the book already. So now I want you to full out share with me about this book and how it relates to your big message and your mission, and when you're going to launch it, how you're going to launch it, because I want my audience to know and be there and participate. And I'm giving away free copies. So tell us about it.
Okay, so first of all, the book launch is going to be June 29th from 1 to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's going to be a virtual book launch, so I'm doing it online. And my daughter's going to be there for a half hour, and we're going to be talking. So that'll be very interesting, because I already have my questions picked out, like what's the hardest thing about having me for a mother, and what's the best thing about having me for a mother. And so it puts her back into her youth. Yeah. So people can see that even though she's absolutely marvelous right now, which that's objectively speaking, of course, she had the same difficulties that every child has.
Right.
So that'll be nice. And then there'll be a whole bunch of gifts and giveaways and things. It'll be an entertaining couple of hours, and people can pop in, pop out whenever they want to. So
Wow.
now the book itself, I'll tell you how I ended up writing this, because this was not my original direction. Like I said before, we're all on a path and we're constantly reinventing ourselves. And I got ill. I had Lyme disease, and I had to stop teaching for a while because it was pretty bad. And
Wow.
I ended up writing stories to go along with music. The Lyme disease affected my brain. I had no concentration. I couldn't watch a TV show because I couldn't follow a half-hour TV show. I couldn't follow it. But songs were only 3 minutes long. So I was listening to the music. It also affected my heart. I ended up seeing a cardiologist who told me that when the Lyme was over, he was going to give me a pacemaker. And I was like, I thought those were for old people, you know. So, but when the Lyme was cured, but finally, then my heart got back to normal, my head got back to normal. But I ended up with all these story ideas so to make a long story short, too late, I ended up having 2 manuscripts because I started writing fiction. And I wrote YA fiction because I kept thinking I can't put anything in it that is racy because I didn't want my students to see it, right? And I only worked during the summers because when you're a teacher, you really can't do anything else. You spend your evenings working on schoolwork, and you spend your weekends working on it, you spend your summers working on it. So this wasn't any time, but I was writing during the summer. And then all of a sudden I realized I had 2 manuscripts. So I said, I'm going to stop teaching. I'm going to start being an author. Well, about 5 minutes after I stopped teaching, I missed it horribly. I'd been in school since I was 5, and now I was in my 50s, right? I've been in around hundreds of people all my life. Now it was me, my husband, my computer. So that's when I started saying, well, what can I do now that will put me back out there with people? So I started having retreats for moms and teenage daughters. So I had like this whole weekend where I could share stuff like I'm doing with you now, and I didn't have any homework to grade. So
Nice.
it was perfect. Then I had this situation when I was teaching where these girls came to me one day after school upset because one of them was being stalked by an abusive boyfriend, and they were sophomores, and they wanted to use my room as their locker because that's where he was catching them. And they wouldn't tell me who it was, but they said he wasn't one of my students. But, you know, because whenever you get somebody who's being a bully, they need some help. It's not like you need to squash the bully. You need to help them.
Right.
So anyway, I told them they could come to me, but they had to, they could use my room as a locker as long as they kept the drama away from my classroom. But they had to come to me once a week, and we were going to talk about relationships because apparently this young lady had been in several relationships like this, so kind of abusive, since the 7th grade.
Wow.
So I wanted to interrupt that.
Yes.
But I didn't want them to feel judged, and I didn't want them to feel uncomfortable. So I came up with all these little games and tasks and things for them to do so we could get them to figure out what it was that they wanted.
Yes.
And I wanted them to see that it was okay to be alone, that that was a good place to be.
Right.
So fast forward, and then we made these little cheat sheets at the end about what they really wanted for a guy, and then just a little paper.
Yes.
And then about 5 years later, I ran into one of them, and she was like, Mrs. Davis! And she gives me this big hug, and she pulls out her wallet, and she has this cheat sheet laminated. And she pulls this girl over, and she goes, this is that teacher I was telling you about. Show her yours. And that girl had a laminated cheat sheet in her thing. And they said, you need to put this into a book for other girls.
Yes.
But at the time, I wasn't a writer. So I was like, oh, yeah, I was just feeling complimented and happy that I had reached them. And, somewhere in the middle there, I'd also used this technique on my daughter. when
Nice.
she was trying to figure out the attention she was getting from older boys.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had these 2 fiction books, and I thought, I'm going to write this other workbook. So that's what I started working on. And I didn't know how to get it out into the world. And everybody's advice around me was, no, you can't write a book for kids because they don't buy the books. You have to write the book for the moms. So that's when I wrote this book. And this book has, first of all, it's 300 pages, okay? I had to cut it in half. I have another whole book sitting on my desk waiting for me to put that one together, because there's so much material out there for how to help moms. So when I say I've distilled down 3 decades of teaching, it's like, this is just a smidgen of it. It's not.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's how I got here. And I know how isolated I felt as a mom. And I have a lot of in-laws. Right now we have, I think it's 88 nieces and nephews.
Oh, wow. You sound like my family.
No, this is my in-laws.
Yeah.
My family's a little bitty family. So now that I'm in this direction, I'm trying to say to people, you don't have to feel isolated as a mom. You're together, you're all doing the same thing, and you need to connect with each other. Because when you're by yourself and you're in your head, you're sitting there going, oh, blame, terrible me, bad mommy. And without being there, without having somebody else there to say, snap out of it. That's not true. You're doing a great job.
Right.
I mean, you do that for your daughter, right?
Yep.
See, that's because you're an outside person looking objectively at the situation, and you know she's doing a good job.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. You're right. And I just love that you have done this, because this is so needed. This is one of the reasons, one of the reasons I wanted to do the mentorship program that I told you about for middle school girls is because, like, you are focusing on the parents, and that is what you have to focus on. But so many parents just don't have time, especially if they were single parents. And
Yes.
before I was divorced, I called myself a single parent. I knew what that felt like. I just felt like I didn't have time to have those conversations with my children like I wanted to, because I was always working and always striving to give them a better life. And so, that is one of the reasons I wanted to be able to do that mentorship program, because I wanted to be able to pull girls in a room like you did with the 3 girls that came to you, and be able to say, all right, what are we dealing with? How can I help? How can you start a conversation with your own mom to be able to enlighten your mom into some of the things that you're feeling? So the communication is so important. And I love that you are touching on all of this in your book. I can't wait to get that book. It's going to make my communication with my grandchildren better.
It will. It'll help. And also make you feel empowered. And every time you show them something from the book, and you teach them something about how they are actually normal, that's going to make them feel empowered.
Yes. Awesome. And audience, I will have all of that information for her. As a matter of fact, I am promoting her book launch up until she launches.
So much for that.
Yeah, so I definitely will have all of that information posted different places as I am promoting it. And also, I'll be giving away some copies of the book, like I talked about. So one of your favorite books, Deborah, was The Dragon Riders of Pern by Anne McCaffrey. Yes. What is that? Tell me.
I told you I'm a science geek, and that's a whole series of books, but that was the first one that I read, and I liked it because it had a heroine in it who was like kick butt and take names type person.
Ooh.
And that's why I liked it so much. The science fiction side of it was that if you bonded with a dragon, then you had mental telepathy with it. And right, okay, but her world starts with her town or whatever, her hold, as they called them in the book, being taken over by another person, and that person was cruel and evil and killed every single person in her family. And she got out by accident, and so she stayed in the area pretending to be one of the servants and always stayed dirty or whatever. And when the dragon riders came looking for a female to become the next rider of they had what they called the golden egg. There would be a golden dragon. It was the strongest of all the dragons. It was the female. So they were looking for somewhere in the land who'd be able to handle that person. They found her, and they bring her back to where they live, and she goes from this person who is basically a servant who's being beaten all the time to the leader of basically the country.
Nice. That's a nice fiction book. There's a lot, as you were talking about, there's a lot there. There's a lot of things there that can, you know.
Yes.
I love that. Nice.
Can I just tell you one quick story?
Yes.
My first book was called Fairly Certain. That was my fiction book. It's about a computer geek who falls out of a tree, and when he wakes up, he thinks he's back in medieval times.
Oh, nice.
So when my daughter was probably about somewhere between 18 and 20 was when the manuscript was getting finished, and she read it and she goes, "Mom, there's no sex in here." And I said, "Well, you know, I just don't feel comfortable writing that." I didn't go through the whole explanation that I didn't want my students to be reading something I had written that was sexual, right?
Right.
She says to me, "Well, I'll write it for you." I was like, "Oh, well, thank you very much, but I think I'm just going to leave it the way it was." And in my head, I'm thinking, no, I do not want to see sex through my daughter's eyes.
That's hilarious. Yeah, she's like, "I'll write it for you." That's funny. So have you published that book or no?
Oh, yeah, those 2 books are out. Yep. I actually have 4 books out. I have Fairly Certain, that's the one I just told you about. I have Fairly Safe, which is a story about a grown orphan who meets a person, a girl that he falls for, but she's in witness protection and her cover's been blown. So that's the second one.
Nice.
And then, and both of them are heavy into family values. And my students, back when I was teaching and I'd written these books, they're like, "Yeah, we see the environmental science stuff you're putting in there, Mrs. Davis." I was like, "Yes." So yeah, because I used to teach environmental science. But anyway, and then I have this book, which is free on my website right now, How to Get Your Happy On.
Oh yeah, I saw that.
And it has a little experiment at the end you can do with your kids on how media and music affect your mood. And then this book is officially out in 20-something days, so that's exciting. And then I was part of 2 anthologies last year. One is called The Power of Your Inner Brilliance, and the other one is called Manifested Blessings. And they are books, each chapter is by a different woman. Right. And it's about bringing strength and continuity into our lives.
Nice. Very nice. Yeah. Yeah. I just did an anthology, a part of an anthology with someone else.
Very cool.
I wrote a chapter in one.
Do you know what the title was? I'd like to get it.
It's the, I think it comes out in July. It's The Power of Perseverance.
Nice. Power. I'm going to write that down. Power of Perseverance.
Yeah.
Write that down, audience.
Yes. It's coming out in July. So now, audience, Deborah, I will tell you, I'm going to put all of her information on the podcast page. This podcast, of course, you'll be seeing this before her book launch. And you can find her on her Facebook business page at Deborah Ann Davis Author. She has a Facebook group, A Mom Meetup for Confident Girls.
And I'd love to invite anybody who's a mom to join that group. Please, you're more than welcome. And
Yes.
it's a place for you to interact. It's not a place for you to sit back and get advice. It's like share the things you know.
There you go. I love that. Yeah, she's got this awesome Facebook group for girls. So, and Deborah, you can find her. I'll put all her links. She's on Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Pinterest. I'll put it all on her podcast page, and you will definitely see the information for the launch. And Deborah, you do have a free gift for my audience. I think you talked about it already. Your
This book, yes.
Get Your Happy On book, right?
Yes. Yep.
Yes. So make
So
sure.
if you just go to my website, DeborahAnnDavis.com, it's an ebook, and you can download it right there. And it'll be free until the July 5th.
Nice. Awesome. Love it. Now, your favorite quote. You told me your favorite quote was, if you want tomorrow to be different, you have to change something today. Why is that your favorite quote?
Because it gives you a sense of power, and it gets rid of procrastination. If I'll speak as a mom who is feeling overwhelmed, you only have to do one little thing to change that course. So instead of just heading down the overwhelmed path, you can interrupt it. And anything that you do right now to interrupt it will shift your path in a more positive direction. So in my book, there's all these things called quick fixes. And I'm going to give you one right now because it is so quick and easy. If you are in a situation that is negative, whether it's something with your boss or something in your relationship, or you have an argument with your child, fake smile. If you smile, your body creates a set of hormones. Those muscles generate or trigger the nerves that generate these hormones that course through your body. Well, if you grit your teeth and stretch your lips like that, your body can't tell the difference. And it will send out those hormones the same way, and it interrupts the situation. So if you've got a kid that you bang heads with, teach them to do fake smiling, and then when you're in the middle of a fight, just do it. And they'll know what you're doing. Just don't do it without telling them, because they'll think you're wacky.
Oh, yeah, right. You're right. Oh, wow. I can't wait to get this book. That's going to be so much fun.
So that little thing, you change that today, tomorrow's different.
Right. That's right. It's about the little changes you make.
Exactly. They matter.
Yeah, they matter. I love that. Deborah, thank you so much for stopping by and being here. And I look forward to supporting your book in the launch until it launches at the end of the month. I really look forward to it. Before you go, if you can give my audience, which you've given them tons already, but if you could give them one action tip that they can put in place today, that would be wonderful.
Okay, where to choose? I would say I'm going to make this one about you, you moms. Okay, your first action tip is, I can't emphasize enough how important taking moments for yourself is. So if you do deep breathing, you take a long inhale and you listen to the sound of the breath in your ears. That's part of the focus. You take a long inhalation, you hold it for a little bit, and then you take a long exhalation. And when you do that, you are moving, you're massaging your organs, you're moving extra oxygen to your brain, and who can't use more oxygen in your brain? And you are moving your bloodstream, and you are moving your lymph, which is all the things that are supposed to be removed out of your body. So if you do 3 or 4 or 5 breaths at a time, then you will be benefiting your body in many, many, many ways. And you can do it before you get out of bed in the morning. You can do it before you close your eyes at night when you go to sleep. You can do it when you're going to the bathroom. You can do it when you are, before you turn your car on, when you get behind the steering wheel. You can do it after you eat and before you eat. I mean, you could just stick it into your life all the time. And even if you don't have time to say, you know what, I'm going to go and take a bath and I don't want anyone to talk to me, you may not have that luxury in your life with your kids. So moms, you can do this deep breathing thing and take these little moments of time for yourself all day long.
Yes. I love that. Because we fooled ourselves into believing that we don't have time.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So
I
we
love
have,
that.
and many of us, let's say, many of us don't have time, but we all have moments.
There you go. I
We
love
all
that.
have moments.
Mm-hmm. Very
So
nice.
you can take that moment, and you've got a little kid in front of you, have them do the deep breathing with you. Your husband or your significant other just came back, greet him at the door, give him a hug, and say, 3 deep breaths with me right now. Right?
Yes, yes. I love that.
The kids come home from school, 3 deep breaths right now. They just found out that they're not going back to school. They don't know what's going to happen for next year for college or whatever. 3 deep breaths right now with me.
I love that. I'm going to put that in place. 3 deep breaths. Just, and then, business owners, you're listening.
Yes.
You're in the middle of your day and it's not going exactly how you want it to go. 3 deep breaths.
Yep.
I love it.
Your boss has a different learning style than you. 3 deep breaths.
3 deep breaths. I love it. I love it. Deborah, thank you so much for stopping by today and sharing us, blessing us with so much great information. Audience, pay attention because I'm going to blow this book out and I'm going to really, we're going to talk about this launch. And hey, show up for Deborah. And I guarantee you, if you have tweens, this book will help you. She shared that already. So we'll see you next time on Inspired Women, Amazing Lives. Take care. Thanks for joining me for this episode of Inspired Women, Amazing Lives podcast. Until we meet again, I urge you as an inspired woman to seek out ways to inspire and lead the other women in your circle. Please share this episode with another woman that you would love to inspire or someone who has inspired you. Feel free to rate, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, and remember, always thrive, inspire, and lead.